Estás escuchando Radio Primavera Sound, proudly presented by Cupra.
Welcome to a special RPS presentation of an interview we've been looking forward to for a while now. We have the honor of having Neo Sora in the studio with us, who is in Barcelona to present the movie he has made about his father, Ryuichi Sakamoto. The film is Opus. It is a concert movie, I guess, to be specific. No, you're not really convinced about calling it a documentary, right?
Yeah. Basically, a lot of people, when they hear the word documentary, they expect a certain kind of a movie where you get to learn a little bit more about the person and you get maybe behind-the-scenes footage of the making of something. But then people come to the theater expecting that, and then they're very disappointed. And so I decided to make sure to call it a concert film, because the prime purpose of it is to try to give people the experience of being at a concert. However, that being said, I personally do think it's a documentary, of a certain kind. I think it's kind of a capturing of like a performance in amber, so to speak, to preserve it. So I think in a sense it is a documentary, but I've been saying it's a concert film.
As a filmmaker, is this how many times had you worked with music as a subject?
Actually, I did one concert film back, when was that? Maybe in 2016 or 2017, where Jason Moran, the jazz pianist, was doing a piano performance against this Japanese jazz pianist named Suga Dairo. And that was at the what was that? Stanford, I'm blanking on the name of the piano company. But
Steinway?
Steinway, yeah, the Steinway factory in New York, which was really fun to shoot, actually. But that was the only one that I did related to music, I would say.
Because I imagine, in growing up in a household with such important music being made, is that an influence that you notice seeping into the way you look at art?
I mean, it's hard to kind of pick it apart, obviously, but I would say so. I love music, and I love music in cinema as well, and so definitely.
Music in cinema can be a slightly controversial topic, I think, in terms of concert films. Do you have any sort of particular references of concert films you enjoy?
Concert films, I mean, the Talking Heads concert film, obviously, but that's really the only one that I know of. But the one that I watched a lot before making Opus was this particular piece that I found on YouTube, where Leonard Bernstein and Glenn Gould were performing on TV in America. And it was I forget exactly what it's called, but the car company Ford sponsored this program where Leonard Bernstein explains music to everybody and then performs it live in front of the camera. And actually the cinematography in it is incredible, and the lighting and everything about it. But it's orchestral, but it's really amazing. And so that's something that we really, I really watched in preparation for filming.
Is it true that you shot Opus on iPhones?
No.
Okay, I don't know why.
We prepared. So before shooting, I had my father make the set list, and I had him perform the set list for the iPhone so that I could share that with my collaborators.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
That would be impressive.
It's because there was a review in the New Musical Express that said it was shot entirely on iPhone. So I guess they or maybe I read it. I misinterpreted the way it was written.
We shot the rehearsal on iPhone.
Okay. How do you approach what was? Did you know that it was going to be your father's final performance?
I mean, there's no way really to know those things in the moment, but I mean, people were talking about it as the final performance or could be the final performance. So there was definitely a bit of that heaviness going on in it. But also, you never know when someone's going to die. So then there's no way really to know that it could be. But he was quite ill and very frail, so we had to be very careful about how long we can shoot for and how far we can push and things like this. So.
But it was whose idea was it initially to do this film? Was it Ryuichi's? Was it your father? It was, and it was his idea that you be the director from the start.
Yeah.
And how was the pressure? What did you feel at the time when your father asks you to do this?
I mean, I was actually working on a separate film when I was asked to do it. It's a film that I had been working on for a really long time. So I had to pause that film to do Opus. So in that sense, I had quite a time crunch in a sense. But in terms of pressure, I mean, I didn't really feel too much pressure. I just wanted to do a good job. I wanted to do it before I would regret something, and so I decided to take it on. There's a lot of pressure going into the practicalities of filmmaking, but not necessarily too much pressure in terms of taking it on, per se.
Because I mean, your father's legacy is so enormous, and it means so much to so many people. I imagine that. Did you also have those kind of demons on your shoulder, like, there's everyone is going to watch this movie, a lot of people, this isn't a cult thing, this isn't an underground project, this is massive. I don't know, I imagine that there are things that as a film director, right, you get scripts, you get projects, there can be different types of pressures, but the fact that this is going to be it is such a testament to the legacy of Ryuichi Sakamoto. Did you have nightmares? Did you have anxiety?
No, not really.
You're a really calm guy.
I'm a calm guy, I guess. I don't know. I don't really like to think too much about legacy, and I know that he didn't really like to think about it too much either. Obviously, he wanted to leave something behind and things like that, but I mean, I don't know how it was for him when he was younger, but at least when he was a little bit older, when I really remember, talking to him the most, I think he didn't really care too much about, legacy and how it'll be perceived or anything like that. I think he just wanted to, leave something for his fans. And for me, the pressure is actually, a lot of the pressure came more from technical and practical things that went on into filmmaking, because in a sense, like, all I needed to do was to film the performance, and to make it look good, I just left it up to my amazing cinematographer and lighting designer, Bill, and Larry-san, as her nickname is. And they just made it look amazing, and the performance is great. And so I just had to kind of be in the booth and make sure that everything's working and call action and cut. Mm-hmm. And so in a sense, the pressure is actually not too big, because it's not as if I need to kind of create something from inside of myself or something like this.
Yeah, and I guess the beauty about filmmaking is it's a team effort, and
exactly.
Usually, with great professionals, one can focus on what one has to do.
And so, I've made music videos, and I've done things in the past where I would have to film a performance. And actually, what I've realized from this experience is if the performance and the music is good, then actually the filmmaking is quite easy. Mm-hmm. There's a lot less that the actual camera and the filmmaking has to burden, the less burden the cinema has to do if the music is good. So
yeah.
I wonder if you've got like a sort of dream kind of band or artist you would like to work with, just to put it out there.
Oh, wow. I had not thought about that. I should think about that. Dream act or performance. Let me think about this. Can I come back to you?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
We'll come back to this question. I'll think about it.
And the movie, the concert film, is going to be projected tonight in the Da Festival. Do you usually stay and watch with the audience? Do you enjoy watching your work with the audience, or are you one of those directors that presents it and leaves the room and waits anxiously outside.
I wait anxiously outside. Yeah. I mean, when I start thinking about, again, it's super technical, but like the sound mix and how it sounds in the room and all these things, I get too crazy. So I have to step outside and hope that it works, you know?
Yeah. How have you felt having to, rewatching, seeing your father again in this performance that you've directed? How did you feel the last time you watched it?
So the last time I watched it was, when was that? I guess I was checking the Atmos mix of the film, and I thought that it sounded amazing. If everybody, has the opportunity to, if they watch this movie, I highly recommend the Atmos mix of it because it's great. But yeah, I mean, at that point, I had already processed my grief to some degree, so I was able to have like a kind of technical detachment to it. But I will say that right after my father passed away, a week later, I was still in the editing and the mixing and the color grading of the film, and so that was pretty emotionally intense, I would say. But after a year or two of working on it, you watch it so many times and over again that actually it starts to get quite cut and dry, I would say. But yeah, in the process of grieving while still having to finish the film, that was quite an emotional thing for me.
Do you think there will come a moment in a few years, when you're kind of doing other things, you'll be able to look back on it and just enjoy it and not think about the sound mix or what you could have done?
I don't know. I'll have to see. But I think something that we were talking about whether the film is a documentary concert film, but something that I've been really thinking about a lot is how after my father passed away, there were a lot of obituaries and articles that were written about him, and that's something that I would read every so often. And, I think at first it's like really touching and great. Then I personally learned a lot about my father that I didn't know before and things like this, but everything kind of is written in a very conclusive way, as if to summarize his life. And to me that felt quite a little bit sad in a way because it felt contained. His life is finished and now it's like we're closing the book, and that was quite sad. And so when I watched the movie after kind of reading all these obituaries, I was actually quite happy and glad that in Opus I left it quite open for interpretation, because there's no explanation, there's no telling of a narrative or anything like that. It's just the person, and it's almost like of course it's a subjective experience, but in a sense what we're filming is very objective, right? It's just the person performing. And so I was able to bring a lot of my own kind of memories and my own experiences to watching the film. So in that sense, I think I will be able to come back to it later on, and every time I watch it, I'll probably project some other kind of feeling or emotion at that, that I have at that moment, or discoveries, So, I'm glad that it's going to remain as that, without too much backstory or explanation or interpretation.
You've said earlier that obviously the artist is in control of what he is doing on screen. That was kind of an easy part. You didn't have to worry about. You had your great directors of photography and technicians. But during the planning of this, or when it was still in sketching phase, in your mind, what ideas did you want to bring to the table, if there were any, or did you know from the start that you just had to light it nicely and let it breathe so that your father could do his thing?
Yeah, with any kind of film project that I do, I like to think about what is the kind of core and essence of the film project that I'm doing, and whatever stylistic choice that is made in the film, let let me rephrase it this way. It's much easier to decide on the stylistic choices of a film and how to go about filming it if you know what the core or the essence of the film is that you're going to make. And so I definitely did think a lot about what the core is. And for me, for the film, it was physicality of the body, both of him, but also the piano itself. And actually, from physicality as a starting point, it becomes the theme of physicality transitions into the theme of time, which he was very interested in, obviously. And then that transitioned into the idea of lighting it so that it represents shifting from day into, or night into day and back into night again. And then from the idea of physicality came the idea of shooting it in black and white so that you can capture the details of his hands and face, but then also how the black and white really melds into the image of the piano itself. So they kind of become one in the shadows and things like that. And so, yeah, all of these decisions that I made ended up kind of stemming from the idea of physicality. And also even the sound mix. So we had this brilliant sound engineer named Zach, who's like a quite well-known engineer of music in Japan. And, you know, we were talking about how we wanted to capture his breathing and physical sounds as if it were music as well. And so you'll hear a lot of that in the mix. So that also is kind of stemming from this idea of capturing physicality. So that was kind of the main, maybe directorial contribution that I made, which is like, this is what we're going to focus on. And then, yeah, everything else kind of like flows from there.
What did Zach do that surprised you the most, like putting a microphone somewhere where you would never have imagined?
I mean, that was kind of a battle because, you know, at first there was a day when basically Zach and I had to go to the producers of the film, who is Sakamoto's manager, and basically ask whether this is a recording of a performance with video or if it's a film, because those two things are different, right? And the reason why we got into this slight battle is because when Zach produced his kind of map of microphones that he wanted to put around the piano, it was like 48 microphones or something like that, all kind of positioned in a dome shape around the piano. And I looked at the map and I was like, there's no place to put the camera. There's too many microphones. Can you reduce the number of microphones? And he's like, well, you know, it'd be great to be able to capture this at this resolution. And then I was talking to my cinematographer, Bill, who really wanted to bring in a balloon light. So there's actually a really big balloon light over the piano to light the whole kind of area. And Zach was like, that's going to really mess up the kind of reverb and ambience of the recording and all that stuff, right? And
Sound and vision colliding.
So really colliding. And so we're like, we need to have the producers make a decision about which is more important in a way. I mean, they're both important, obviously, but which is the priority, right? And so they decided that it was going to be a film. And so he was like, okay, that's totally fine. I'll do my best I can. And he reduced the number of microphones to what you'll see, which is like, I think like 20 or something, like a lot, still a lot. But so he has tons of microphones, and something that he really thought about a lot, which is also something that my father thought about, which is the moment with which the sound like dissolves and decays into not sound, or like silence, right? And so there were a lot of microphones quite far away, actually, to pick up on the like vibrations in the air and stuff. And then he also had lavalier mics placed like inside the piano and on the ledge of the piano to capture his breathing sounds. And then we also put a mic on his shirt as well to capture those. So there was tons of microphones everywhere.
I mean, your father was pretty obsessed with this concept of the eternal note. I read about, no, and that a piano, you know, ends up going and a piano note will eventually reach a silence, but sometimes that it will sustain. Did he get the chance to listen to the recordings of this performance, and did he comment on it with you?
He didn't. He wasn't able to listen to the final mix of the film, but in the process of making it, he was listening to the rough drafts over and over again. So I think he was quite happy with how it turned out. Yeah.
We know you have to go, but thank you so much for taking that. Did you have any thoughts on any musicians you'd like to work with?
Shit. Man,
I even wrote it down so I wouldn't forget it.
Yeah. God damn. I should think about this. Who would I want to film? That is such a good question.
Let's put it easier. You enjoy, obviously, it's classical musicians sat down and stuff. That's one dynamic. But what about the dynamic of rock bands or bands that are a bit more, what would be the difference? I don't know. Yeah, on stage, in jumping around and.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm really...
and everything in between.
Everything in between, yeah. I mean, okay, I'll just tell you some artists that I really liked recently, which is, I really love Lucretia Dalt.
Oh, yeah.
Her new album, I, is incredible. I like Laurel Halo a lot.
Yes.
Eve Tumor, I really like. And so maybe somewhere, some people around there, perhaps.
Yeah.
Yeah. Makaya McCraven. Do you know Makaya McCraven?
Yes.
Yeah. I love Makaya McCraven.
Yes.
Those, I mean, they're all like amazing performers, right? And so anybody who's a really great performer, who I think would be really interesting. But that's what I'm listening to recently.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And just for the last minute we have,
yes.
Top 3 movies. That's a hard one. I know. Come on, off the top of your head. 3 movies that. Okay, let's. You're gonna go for a weekend to some cabin. Okay, you're gonna do some nature walking and stuff, but you need 3 movies for the nighttime.
3 movies for the nighttime.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. I'll go with Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind.
Oh yes.
By Miyazaki. Let's say, we were just talking about it, but Wheel of Fortune and Fantasy by Ryusuke Hamaguchi. Amazing. And third film, let's see. Brighter Summer Day by Edward Yang. Really amazing film.
Thank you so much. Thank you for those recommendations. Nausicaa I know very well. I hadn't seen the other 2. Neo, it's been an honor, a privilege, and a pleasure to have you here. Thank you so much for making the time to come all the way to our offices here by the seaside. So
thanks, guys.
At least you've got to see the sea.
Yes.
Thanks to us already. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
Arigato.
Domo.